Bitcoin's price action is staggering, presenting new all-time highs day after day after day. And many people are looking at the chart wondering how parabolic this needs to get before there's some semblance of a correction. And while there's always corrections in parabolic markets, it's important to realize that this one particular change that Bitcoin still has on the horizon is going to most certainly multiply Bitcoin's price. Despite the legend that is BTC, in many ways, Bitcoin is still in its first chapter. Today, we're going to be talking about the single thing that I believe sends Bitcoin to a six-figure valuation and beyond. And with that, we're going to see a slingshotting and explosion of the altcoin market that creates a wealth transfer on the level that we've never seen before in history. If you've been following this channel, you know how amazing and generous the crypto markets can be if you're there when Bitcoin is making its move. And so today, we're diving in to the single thing that will propel Bitcoin to exponential growth and how you can best position to build life-changing wealth from this movement. If you guys are excited for this one, go ahead, destroy that like button. Remember, as always, each and every comment below the video is entered to win your own hardware wallet. And as always, we do this show each and every day. So if you love making money, then all you have to do is subscribe and make sure you put that bell notification on because we're bringing you the absolute best information at the earliest possible stage. Of course, a little warning that there are scammers in the comments pretending to be me. Sad I have to say that every video, but to all you newbies out there, just know I'll never ask you to contact me on WhatsApp or anything like that. So if you see that, that's a scammer. There was no video yesterday because I've been knee deep in the technical nitty-gritty, getting ready for the launch of the super token tomorrow. And I couldn't have even dreamed of a better way to be launching this than in the market and the climate for NFTs that we have right now. With that said, let's dive into the one thing that's going to send Bitcoin to the moon. Now, today we're talking about the Bitcoin ETF, which has been elusive for the last several years as firm after firm after firm have tried to put forth their application for an ETF approval from the United States Securities Exchange Commission. They keep getting rejected. However, there's just been a huge shift in leadership there that we hope will lead to a Bitcoin ETF. And we've seen a little bit of foreshadowing here as Canada has just achieved the first North American ETF, and they've had almost $500 million enter into the ETF in just the first few days. This shows you that the appetite for exposure to Bitcoin is reaching a fever pitch, and that when an ETF is approved for trading in the United States, publicly traded companies here will rush into this like there is no tomorrow. I believe that an SEC approved ETF that gives anyone and everyone exposure on the stock market to the underlying Bitcoin asset would be an absolute boon for the Bitcoin industry, at least doubling, if not tripling and quadrupling the price of BTC in the process. And here you see that the rate of growth here is geometric, as one analyst predicts that even on the Canadian Bitcoin ETF, we're gonna see over $1 billion in demand. And we can only imagine what would happen if that takes place here in the United States. And wouldn't you know that Morgan Stanley is behind one of the most recent ETF applications, leading many to believe that this is one of the most authoritative and high percentage chances for any ETF to be approved. And if you're wondering how the Bitcoin ETF directly impacts the underlying asset, well, this is it. A Bitcoin ETF is done in the form of a trust, and the trust investment objective is to reflect the performance of the price of Bitcoin, less the expenses of the trust operations. The trust will not seek to reflect the performance of any benchmark or index. In seeking to achieve its investment objective, the trust will hold Bitcoin. They're actually going to be buying Bitcoin, and that means that when you have the physically delivered underlying asset, the more the demand grows for this ETF, which is the easiest and most liquid and frictionless way for big regulated entities like insurance funds, pensions, endowments, the biggest money bags in the world would now be able to access Bitcoin right through their TD Ameritrade, right through their stockbroker. It is by far the easiest way for people to ride along on this Bitcoin movement and essentially participate without going through the motions of setting up their own custody. A lot of these things are big points of friction. And so the Bitcoin ETF, especially for the biggest money bags in the world, in my opinion, is unparalleled in its ability to absolutely send Bitcoin to the moon and beyond. It is absolutely zero doubt in my mind that Bitcoin would end up with a six-figure valuation after a Bitcoin ETF is approved. And in my mind, that is just a stop along the journey on the way to the hallowed land of a $1 million Bitcoin. Remember, we are less than 20x away from a $1 million Bitcoin. At 50K, we were a 20x. We are now less than that. Now, it does appear that we have a higher likelihood of a Bitcoin ETF because there has been a big change of leadership at the SEC, the people in charge of deciding whether an ETF is approved or not. The head of the SEC was very much so not in favor of a Bitcoin ETF and rejected countless applications to that end. However, Gary Gensler actually taught a class on cryptocurrency at MIT, and you can't teach a class about cryptocurrency or blockchain without pretty much celebrating the innovation that is Bitcoin, which created blockchain technology. Effectively, if you're teaching on it, you have to at least appreciate the Papa BTC. So it's pretty unimaginable that Gary wouldn't be in favor of a Bitcoin ETF, especially as this market is showing signs of maturity. With that said, it's important to realize that Bitcoin just made a new all-time high of almost $58,000, pushing $60,000. But it's important to look at this chart and see how parabolic this price action has been. I mean, look, the only time before it's been this parabolic was here in 2017. You see how parabolic it went here. Of course, we know this was followed by a pretty long bear market. But we do have this incredible parabola right now that's forming. And if that means that there is a bit of a correction, well, I hope you guys know by now that that would present you an amazing opportunity. Like every single dip or correction in the history of cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, every time you have this huge cool off, these are the times you want to be buying. You want to buy when things flatline and get boring and people roll their eyes at you because you're talking about it. That's how you know you're onto something. I tweeted this earlier today. No one wants to pay attention to coins when they're not pumping. That's exactly when you should be looking at them. And the reality is that this is the truth. You want to get into things when they're boring, and you need to have patience and know how to do your due diligence. You find something that's not moving, you wait for it to do its thing. That's how you experience the most transformative growth. If you get into something that's constantly pumping, it's probably going to take a break soon. Whereas if you get into something boring, you have the chance to be there when it comes back to life or explodes to new all-time highs. That's when you want to get into it. Now, Bitcoin is currently sucking the air out of the room to a large degree. And when it does do things like this, most of the big money bags just chill out in Bitcoin. But after it gets boring, it goes sideways, we will see an altcoin season of titanic proportion. So it's important to realize this is all a prelude to Bitcoin actually being traded on the stock market like a big boy asset. And that means that all of the biggest money bags can easily gain exposure without jumping through fiery hoops or potentially taking on the dangers of self-custody. What I see is only and purely opportunity in cryptocurrency. And in my opinion, the trending narratives within altcoins, as Bitcoin goes through a lull on its path to $1 million, will be slingshotted to the tune of 10, 50, 100, even 1,000x in gains. And that is where I've made my most transformative gains throughout my career in crypto. And that's where I believe it's easiest to experience those gains. I'm currently looking at, of course, DeFi, which has been pumping for a long time. It's getting a little more saturated, but things like DeFi on Binance Smart Chain, of course, are more interesting. Obviously, that comes with oracles and insurance. We're also looking at new scaling technology. ZK rollups is going to be a serious hot button because regardless of Binance Smart Chain, Ethereum is still the most trusted chain, and having some semblance of scaling there is going to bring the users back there. I believe that. So ZK rollups, which are clearly the next wave of scaling for Ethereum, I believe are going to take off like wildfire over the next few months. We've seen it with ZK Swap, and I happen to know of a few really cool projects coming to market in the next few months that I believe are going to be very welcome and necessary pieces of scaling infrastructure. ZK rollups, NFTs, DeFi. I believe these categories are going to go absolutely parabolic. If you guys are excited for this, if you guys like learning about the Bitcoin ETF, if you guys are excited for the launch of Super tomorrow, which I've worked so hard for so many years, I'd appreciate it if you guys smash that like button. And as always, each and every comment below this video is entered to win your very own hardware wallet. If you guys love money and you love crypto and you want to have the same transformative gains that my audience has had over the last several months and years, then all you have to do is subscribe and put that bell notification on, and we'll make sure that you stay ahead of the crypto game at each and every stage. With that said, my name's Elio Trades. You can follow me on Telegram or Twitter. The links for both of those are in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you very soon on the next episode.